Menominee Area School District Board of Education to order. Please take a look.
Kenny Burstead.
Here.
Heidi Newton. Here. Heather Slenderman.
Here.
Daniel Paulson.
Here.
Amy Rose Swanson. John Sabota.
Here.
David Steyer.
Here.
Jim Swanson.
Here.
Tricia Thompson.
Here.
We have a quorum. Conduct business. This is a special meeting because of certain items that are of a timely matter, and so do we have any objections to the agenda as posted? Hearing none, I will proceed. Community communications. I remind everyone, anyone that wishes to speak to us, that this is we have a time limit on this meeting, and so we're going to hold to our 3-minute discussion. So will Laura Lawson please come up? Thank you.
My name is Laura Lawson. My daughter Cassie is a 4th grader at Downsville Elementary. I'm here today because I believe there is a transportation crisis in our district, but let me first start with my personal story. Since July, I have been in communication with Menominee Transportation, the district business office, and Dr. Zadowski to arrange bus service. What should have been a 5-minute phone call to the bus garage has turned into hours upon hours of red tape and frustration. My appeal, just like Becky Marlette presented last week, is that the walk to my child's bus stop is not safe. It is located a 1/4 mile from our driveway on the corner of 2 busy county highways. The stop is not within sight of our home, is not lit, and is not sheltered from inclement weather. In fact, 20 feet from the corner is a snow fence to help alleviate the drifting caused by wind blowing snow across the open fields. Also, because no other children use this stop, there is a greater risk of abduction. The district's answer has been that it's not their problem because her safety is not their concern until she gets on the bus, and the budgetary constraints don't allow for additional miles to be added to the bus route. No consideration was given to the issue of parent work schedules, financial hardships, or the lack of child care facilities in Downsville, because centers in Menominee are not included in the route either. I find this insensitive and contrary to the vision to create strong partnerships with families. Recently, I have pulled other parents in the district for their input on the matter as well. I've brought a document with specific details that they wanted to share. Of the 180 individuals that responded, 31%, or roughly 1/3, stated that they are not satisfied with the service they are receiving. If you don't think these statistics equate to deem this a crisis, I implore you to look at it from another view. If 1 in 3 students in our district were hit with an illness, it would be considered an epidemic. If 1 in 3 families decided to open enroll their child in another district, it would mean that over $10 million in lost revenue. I hope this helps to show the importance of this situation. My request of the board is to align the district's fiscal resources with this priority. In other words, to revise this year's budget to allocate more funds to transportation. This will help to alleviate the staff shortage at Menominee Transportation and allow for annual review and revisions of the routes to better accommodate the district's needs. Secondly, I request a committee to be formed to not only rewrite the outdated policies, but work to address the public's concerns. Specifically, I suggest the wording of policy 751.1, paragraph 2 to read, rural area bus stops shall be established on a driveway-to-driveway basis, period. It doesn't matter if the highway is maintained by the state or the county, the speed limit is the same and they present the same safety risks. I'd also suggest in paragraph 4 of the same policy that an established bus stop be defined as a place used by 3 or more students. We live in a broken world. Stories like Molly Tibbetts are an example of the danger our children face. I understand that the district cannot be held liable for the children before they board the bus, but that doesn't mean undue hardship should be placed on the families to save the district a buck. Not only am I a concerned mother, but I have 3 years experience doing bus routing and driving for Menominee Head Start. And currently I am an accountant at CISA 11 working in school finance. So I understand all 3 sides of this issue. It's a large and complicated undertaking, but as the saying goes, whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. I can't think of anything more worthy than the safety of our children. Thank you for the time and consideration.
Thank you. Are there any other Moving on, board members, superintendent communications. Can you give us a copy of your statement, please?
Dan, can I request, she said she had some other parent concerns, can we see those as well? Not necessarily today, but,
I have them.
oh, you have it, perfect.
Thanks, we'll upload
Just so
them.
we can forward them on to board members out there.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Board members?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Someone else has one. Just kind of an FYI, I had an email from a group called Friends of the St. Croix. I think it was probably a mass email. And that group is actually listed by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a group, just to let people know.
Interesting. Okay. Anyone else?
In the interest of time, the annual meeting coming up at 6 o'clock, I'll keep it short and sweet. I just want to report to the board that we had a terrific opening morning, opening day of staff in service. After last week's new teacher orientation, we were really excited today to get everyone here. Really appreciate all the work of all the staff that organized everything and planned everything, and it was really neat to see about 400 of our employees out in the high school commons this morning having some treats and coffee, and we appreciate Bremer Bank, one of our community partners, for providing that for our staff, the treats and the coffee. And then also we had a great presentation from Joanne from Studer, and the staff had an opportunity to hear about the strategic planning process and kind of see what was coming. And then there were also several focus group meetings today had with staff led by the Studer team. So thanks for being here today, and that's my report.
Oh, one other thing. Our principal, the Oak Lawn principal.
Yes, unfortunately, Lori Smith, our elementary principal at Oaklawn, she was working late last night, getting ready for the start of the school year, and there was an accident, and she ended up breaking her arm. Pretty significant break. It sounds like there'll be a surgery scheduled this week, so we certainly wish Mrs. Smith well. We've already started to talk about it as a lead team. The middle school principals have been very accommodating. We'll be providing their information for some emergencies, but also the district leadership team will be providing some additional support as we get ready for the start of the school year.
So would the board be interested in sending her get well card?
Of course.
Yes, I think it should be.
Okay, we'll take care of that on behalf of the board.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Personnel consent agenda action to approve personnel actions.
I'll second.
Second,
I will.
motion and a second.
Me, sorry. Hard one, we're kind of, I like that.
Okay, do we have any discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. Motion passes. Moving on. Item 3 on the agenda, action to approve the revision of the 2018-19 school district calendar. David, move. And second? Okay.
You have a second?
So David and Heather,
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay.
okay?
Any discussion? Hearing none, let's vote. Need a voice. Motion passes. Okay, moving down to number 4, discussion items, policy review. A, policy, review policy 751, student transportation services.
So actually, items A and items B kind of go together. 751 is our policy for student transportation services, and policy 751.1 has to do with bus routing and transportation. Certainly, we appreciate the public comments, both last board meeting and this board meeting, and I do want to make it clear that that certainly the district does not feel that this isn't our issue or our problem to work on. Several hours have been spent not only by the Howes at Menominee Transportation, but also at the administrative level, really taking a look at our policies, looking at our past practices. I even took a ride out, and Leah went out, and we really appreciated Dave and Ryan taking us for a ride and really evaluating a few of our bus stops. And really what it comes down to is when the board wants to take responsibility for children. And in accordance with state law, and if you look at our policy, the district really takes on that parental role once the child enters the bus. It is very important that we have bus stops that are safe in terms of visibility, in terms of the bus being able to get to the bus stop, depending on the weather and such. And we wanted to make sure that there's good visibility in the event that the bus turns the lights on, and we're not going to have cars running through the stop signs and such, because we know how big of a problem that can be. So we took a ride out, and certainly Dave and Ryan have many years of experience scheduling these routes, and it was a judgment determined that our routes that were in question are safe. Now that's a decision that's made route by route and year by year, but certainly we want to make sure our students are safe. At this point, we did review the policy. I know Dave did some comparisons with some other area schools as well. Actually, our policy is probably more generous in some cases in terms of not having students walk as far as some other school districts to reach an approved bus stop. So at this point, the administration is not recommending any changes to policy 751 or 751.1. However, the board has received the policies, and at this time, are there any questions or suggestions from board members?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we have a transportation committee that we do? So who sits on that committee? Dave or?
Dave Steyer has been representing the board, I think, for 4 or 5 years now, in terms of the annual review of the bus contract and how things are going with the bus company.
So what we typically talk about, we get together once a year, and mostly the contract, we talk about some of the busing. I will say, just from my time on the committee, that it was eye-opening to me to see how much goes on behind the scenes, how committee Dave and his son Ryan are what they do to make things work for people. We have the farm where we live on. I know my brother Dale, his kids were supposed to walk down to the corner of an intersection near the farm. And rather than do that, he brings them down to our place and they get on there instead. So we just made the decision to do something different to make sure it's safe for us. I can understand the concern that you guys have. I just don't know how to balance it. There's so many in the district that might fall into that same thing. And I know the constraints that Dave and Ryan are under from a bus standpoint, how we can balance that and how you come to a consensus.
I guess I have another question. In regards to, and she had mentioned this as well, but the policy is, it's been a while. I mean, this last revision of 751 was September of 2008. Does it make sense to maybe look at the policy and see if there's, I don't know, I'm just wondering if we should be reviewing it more formally, because 2008, it's a whole different world right now. And the reason I say that is because I also got a call today from a parent who lives 3 miles from her doorstep to I-94. It's 3 miles, and her daughters get on the bus at a bus stop or at a stop sign that's not even 3 miles away from I-94, has to take them down there. And she made it a point when she said, if somebody grabbed them, it would take them less than 3 minutes to get to the interstate. And that's been a concern of hers for years, and she's, her and her husband have had to change work schedules to make it work. But then I always think about the other kids who maybe don't have that opportunity and option. And I know personally, our bus stop is, I can see it from our doorstep, but I've often thought, how fast can somebody just grab someone? Because in this day and age, I don't think anybody worried about that when I was a kid, but it's a different time. So anyway, so that was my question, is maybe it's worth reviewing it regardless. I don't know. You guys have thoughts?
I will say from the administrative point of view, this policy is brought up every single year. And Dave and Ryan could attest to that, and so could Leah, because she's an administrative member to work with concerns on this policy. So it's not that this policy isn't reviewed administratively, and that's what we're doing tonight with the school board, is reviewing it. And then, if there's recommended for changes, certainly it could come back for a vote. Otherwise, we will update the policy date and show that it was reviewed today. And again, whether you're talking about 3 miles or whether you're talking about 6 miles, it still comes down to the question about at what point does the school district accept the parental responsibility for the child. And if it's at the door, then certainly the policy would need to change. Right now, it's as the child boards the bus. And that's really the big determining factor. If we do take the responsibility at the door, that's going to require all the routes to be reconfigured, and certainly that's going to have a significant impact on the budget, and I don't know of any schools that do that.
What does it mean when you say take responsibility when they walk out the door? What would we assume that we are not assuming right now in terms of liability and legalities and et cetera, that right now start when we get on the bus? What would we?
Well, it could include everything from ensuring the safety of the child in terms of supervision. Right now, let's say we do have a bus stop with 5 students. At the bus stop, it's really the parent's responsibility to supervise that child at the bus stop. Now, once the bus comes and the child enters the bus, then it's the bus driver's responsibility under the direction of the school district. So in the event that there was a medical problem, or there was a behavior problem, or some other issue like that, once the bus is there and once the child enters the care of the bus driver, then it's the whole day until that child is dropped back off or picked back up at school. If we accept that responsibility from the door, from the driveway in some of these cases, we'll be accepting all those responsibilities at that point. There's a Latin term, my Latin's not good, but in parents or something like that.
Have you guys discussed with the insurance company what the realm is and what the legality is in our responsibility between, from an insurance background, I talked about drones the last time, so, but what is the district's responsibility and what happens with the insurance policy? Because at the end of the day, unfortunately, that's what it boils down to. If something would happen to a student between a front door and between the bus, it's going to fall under an insurance claim. So at that point, have we discussed with our insurance company who's responsible, what is the responsibility, and what happens? Because that's a very gray area.
To answer your question, no, there's not been a determination by the insurance company, but the policy is really clear right now that
The policy is clear,
right.
but what is the insurance coverage on it? I mean, because that's where I come from. That's what I do.
I guess, I think one thing that would maybe help the board get a better context to this is if we could see some sample policies from other districts, rural districts like ours, how they're worded, what their line, their length of the students walking, whether there's any line of sight language in the policies, something like that. I guess I would like to see some of that.
And along those lines, I'd like to see then what that added cost would be. I mean, because then we're talking about increase and, you know, just my personal experiences. I live in town and I live in a horseshoe and the bus company will pick up at our road, so my daughter has to walk around. Again, no street lights, out of sight, you know, busy intersection again, but I take that responsibility as a parent to, you know, for my child. Yes, I do worry about the abduction and everything else, but there's also a lot in this world. I mean, not just abduction, but I'd like to just see when, you know, along David's line of more policy, but what also, if we did change, what is the cost and what would that be to taxpayers then?
We can give you an approximation, but it's gonna be awfully rough. We can't expect the bus company to reroute.
No, I know, that's what I mean. I mean, what would the district's cost be, and then would that also then impact the whole Menominee and taxpayer money for that?
Oh, for sure.
You would certainly have to add buses and drivers, and
Right.
it would be a big cost. I guess, the one thing I don't think we can do is assume responsibility when you step out the door. I think on the bus is about the only way that we can, from a policy standpoint, I just don't think we can go there. I'm just curious what other districts are doing, and maybe that would give the board and the community a little better reassurance of where our district's at. And if we're outlined and something needs to be changed, then, you know, then we can do something or take a look at it. But I do think that if we do anything, it's, you know, add more stops in that, whatever we do is going to affect. I guess from when I sit in those meetings, it just amazes me how much dedication that they might have as far as the routes. And everything from handicapped students to different things that they have to worry about. Bus times that the students are on the bus, and how long they travel between schools. There's a lot that goes into it. So I think we have to be cognizant of any changes that we do think and how it might affect the integrity.
Mine just a side note in regards to the second paragraph, transportation for students with disabilities and for students with temporary physical disabilities shall be provided as recommended by the assistant superintendent for student services and consistent with state law. The way I read it, and maybe it's just me, it appears that the assistant superintendent says how the transportation occurs for children with disabilities. And I feel like is that the case? And if it's not the case, should that sentence not be divided up, similar to where it has public or private school in accordance with state law? Shouldn't children with disabilities fall under that same, they get transportation? It shouldn't matter what the assistant superintendent says.
Tony, any comments on that?
I would probably agree. It's really, special transportation is based on a decision based on a child's need for it because of their disability. So it's really based on that team approach, not one necessarily one person. You get it or you don't get it. It's a great sentence. I just feel like the second half of it has to be,
Great. We'll draft that up and bring it back.
I would just say, I think the other statement I wanted to make is that heaven forbid something should happen to a student. We already have had several parents who have publicly stated that they're concerned about this, so I'm a little concerned that one little statement on our policy isn't really going to protect us in that situation. So I do feel like we need to be cognizant of the amount of money that we would be spending as a district, and at the same time, I worry about the liability if something, again, heaven forbid, should happen to somebody. So I just want to make sure to say that.
But I would say that that's not just one little statement. That's a huge statement that defines what that line is between when the school district is responsible and the parent. There's a lot of parents that rearrange their schedules and they either walk or drive their child to the bus stop if that's what they feel is most safe for their child and their family, depending on the age and where they feel comfortable with their bus stop. There's a lot of families that do that. Or there's families, like Dave said, that make an arrangement with a neighbor or someone else they know and they drop the child off there. Or they use daycare. So there's a lot of families that, because of that statement, they're making arrangements. I know Dan and I had a conversation with this at one point, certainly either involving law enforcement, whether it be the county or city or whoever it may be, depending on where they live, or the townships. If there's concern with, I know where I grew up, there was concern about a bus stop, so the township got involved and changed the speed limit of the road, and they also put some signs up talking about frequent bus stops. So there's a lot of things that can be done, and I think we definitely have to be a partner in it. I also don't know that it's fully our responsibility to do everything for everybody.
Oh, no, and I wouldn't suggest that it is, but I would say that lucky for those parents and those children who are able to do that, and acknowledging the fact that it's not possible for all parents and families. And I don't think that we should also just be kind of throwing our hands up in a way and saying, well, most of the parents are able to do that, and are able to make accommodations. So I'm not saying that there's an easy answer here, but I certainly cannot just sit on and be concerned about it.
And we'll do it, Dave and Ryan are here. I asked them to come tonight in case there's any questions from the board for them. But we've talked a lot about it. As a district, we certainly are going to carry out whatever policy the board sets forth. That's our job. But I do think, like Dave said, you may want to look at some policies. You may want to consider the ramification of what these changes could be.
Just when you're getting your background information, see if WASB has anything. And also, could you show us the relevant parts of state law?
Yes.
And again, I think we have to have law enforcement involved in this, because if there are roads and areas that are unsafe, it's partly their responsibility to help deal with that situation. So, this is a community. It's a community issue.
I was just gonna ask, we have for comments and the comments that people say, so will that be uploaded to board members?
Yes. Yep. We'll put it for the board members to review.
Just to, yeah.
I would like to just, this was what, John, you and I were on the committee, was that a year? Would have been 1 school year, whatever, 1 or 2 years ago. I would like to give Menominee Transportation a lot of accolades because they work really aggressively with our district. We had to go back through a realigning process for the elementary schools, and they did an outstanding job in coming up with a way to make it safe and good for our elementary students. And I think that they need to receive credit for that, and I think that they work well with our district. And I respect the concerns that are coming forward to the board, and I think it needs to be redressed. But I like Dave's idea of looking at what some of the other districts do. I think that I don't feel that Menominee Transportation isn't trying to do what's in the best interest of the students, as well as being cost effective for the district. And you know what, it's a tough area. John and I had to be involved in some tough decisions, and we were on the good end because it happened 3 years prior and it was ugly. So I think that they're doing good things, and we need to move this forward and take some other looks at some other districts. But I don't think what we're doing is bad. It's policy at this point, and maybe the policy needs to be changed, and maybe it's fine.
All right.
Just one last comment about this. I like what you said, Dan, about it's a community issue with safety. I think that's really a huge concern, and there might be other ways we can do that. I don't know if there's a way to, have people monitor, or if the police force is, out in the morning, when they're seeing those kids go and maybe driving, maybe the route, checking out the routes. I know they can't be somewhere every time there's an incident. They might not be there, but, some other way that we can use to like our community to help maybe neighbors, reaching out to kids, all those kinds of different things that could happen too, which might be another option to help out as well.
All right, so we'll
Do some more research.
do some more research and come back to this at a later date. And so let's move on to discuss the action plan C for creating a pilot program for the school-based mental health services.
So last spring, the board approved a goal for the school district for the 2018-2019 school year, and that goal was to increase support of mental health in the school district. Since that time, we have collaborated with some people at UW Stout, actually the faculty offering a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling, and we've talked about the creation of a mutually beneficial program that offers graduate students in the university and a clinical practicum and internship. It provides them experiences providing this, and then also could provide services for our students in school-based mental health services. So I share with the board an action plan of how we're reviewing this. We're planning on piloting a program starting after January, but I just wanted to first of all make sure the board was informed, but also if board members had any suggestions for the action plan as we look at moving this forward. We think it's a great opportunity.
Yes.
Do we have any idea of how many students we're looking at might be able to participate in this in terms of from staff?
We're hoping to pilot it with one student in January, but the idea, Tony, when we had the meeting, probably anywhere from, what would you say?
Could be 2, 3, depending on, it really depends on the students that are coming and wanting to focus with youth and children. Some people go through that program and that's not their area of interest, so it really has to be the right person that wants the experience working with youth and that possibly may be interested in working in a school setting. Not everybody is necessarily, but they feel that they have, that they will have quite a bit of interest in that.
Ideally, we'd love to see one at the middle school, one at the high school level, and one at the elementary level. Ideally, we'd like to see 3 at some point, but we plan to pilot it with 1.
Is this a paid internship?
No, not paid through the school district. The only cost the school district would have would be the office space and possibly some software. I think that'd be about it.
I think it's great idea.
Jim?
Who supervises the intern to ensure it's a quality experience for our students?
For our students,
Who supervises the intern so our students get a quality experience, quality counsel?
the teaching staff at Stout, see, and these students, these graduate students already have to have an internship and practicum. So Stout already has all of that structure set up. They've had a long-standing program, so they already have the supervision, they already have the person to provide the evaluation oversight of their end. What we would then have is a school-based person that would be ensuring that our students are being treated appropriately and they're scheduled the way they should be.
Any other comments, questions? Great, thank you. All right, moving on. Discussion of the strategic plan.
So, attached for the board, I started making a summary sheet of all the activities having to do with strategic planning. And you can see that, again, this goes back to some goals from last year and a lot of research that the board did, interviewing different consultants, choosing a consultant, and then all the work that we've done to set up surveys and focus group meetings, presentations to the board, the presentations to the staff today. A couple of the next key steps are finalizing the survey, finalizing the focus group meeting schedule. Feedback that the board provided at a recent board meeting was very helpful. We're still ironing out the details of those focus group meetings. But Joanne and her group are here today, and they certainly can answer any questions the board has, or if the board has any questions of me, now would be a great time.
I just want to say that I attended this session this morning and listened to Joanne. It was wonderful. She did an excellent job of laying out the whole process and explaining and I think it got the people fired up to participate. I think it was great.
Thank you. It's an honor to be able to greet your staff and be a part of today. Thank you for being there, and thanks for the opportunity to outline the process for everyone.
Okay.
I guess that's what I was asking, is to ask for comments from Joanne and any of the other members and how it's going so far. You've had a lot of work that you guys have put into this, and any thoughts or feedback on the process to date?
Sure, I'd be happy to give you just a few quick thoughts. I know that time is flying, but so yes, first of all, kudos to Brian and Jamie for really setting up great focus groups. We really had an opportunity. I think when we did the math, we met with about 200 faculty and staff today, and we did those greatly by employee group and by school. And we did an informal ranking about how comfortable people felt participating, and there was a high degree of comfort. We asked them questions about what the district's doing well, what we can do better on. Also, what are those external challenges that we need to face? And really, people were incredibly talkative, and it was terrific in that way. Felt we really got a lot of good feedback, and already, even though it's very early, tomorrow we're meeting in 4 more schools. Key themes are starting to emerge, and they will do so more as we set up groups to meet with parents and students, the community, as well as you in the early weeks of October, and continue those focus groups. So thank you for the time that you're giving us with your faculty, staff, and community, because it's really valuable to hear the voice, not just take it in a survey. But on the topic of the survey, I met with some members of the steering committee today, and we're just putting the final touches on that so that we'll be ready to have that opportunity to have it be what you want. And I really am very pleased with the idea of having multiple ways to have your voice heard. I think that's a very important part that you want to be accentuating to your community, that your constituents, is that if for some reason, even though there'll be multiple focus groups in different settings in the community, if they can't get there, please, there'll be a survey. Give us your feedback about what the district's strengths and opportunities are, so that we're able to have that voice heard, even if it's not through a face-to-face exchange in a focus group. This really needs to be the community's plan, and we want to make sure that we have not only the voices of faculty, staff, students right here in the schools, but also of the constituents that we serve in many different ways, business owners, at STEL, parents, and many, many people that may not have children in the schools, but want to have their voice heard. So it's been a great pleasure. My team, right here with Kathy Arapalo and Ted Kircher, and we're taking a lot of notes. We went through a lot of markers and a lot of paper today, but got a lot of things down, and I'm really excited for what we're finding and what we're hearing. So thanks for the opportunity. I take any more questions.
I have a couple.
Yeah.
When you use the term focus group, Joanne, I understand focus group when you were talking about, the different buildings, and when it goes out into the community though, they're gonna be non-specific though, correct? Is it just gonna be like a community group, right?
It is. When we call it a focus group, I know before you called it a conversation or a dialogue.
Sure, yeah.
And I think we're very open to what we call them as what we talk about, but it's really an opportunity for us to listen to what people's hopes and aspirations are for what we should be doing strategically. We call them focus groups, but if we want to call them something else, we're very open to
Sure,
that.
I just wanted to make sure I was on the same,
Yep.
I just was on the same page. My other question was in regards to, so we got that great letter from you about things that you were needing, and then Jamie was needing in regards to letters encouraging citizens to attend these open sessions, focus
Yes.
groups, whatever you want. That's going, and you shared was going out to all the families. Are we doing anything above and beyond just the families of the school district?
Yes, in fact, Jamie has been collecting the suggestions of
Okay.
various groups to invite.
Okay.
So not only will we send out a mass invitation to all families, but then anybody that sends something to Jamie from the steering committee, we're keeping a spreadsheet, and then we'll send those invitations as well. I already saw some on that spreadsheet that are kind of cross-referenced, they're already families. So we'll probably modify it a little bit before we actually put it together. We don't want to send people 3 invitations, but we will do that.
Am I remembering correctly, but I thought for some reason we were gonna do like a
newspaper ad or something that, from the first meeting, did I?
We are going to advertise the heck out of these listening sessions,
Okay,
or
that's
focus
what
group
it is.
meetings, whatever you want to
Okay.
call them.
Got it.
We'll be using social media, we'll be using the newspaper. We are finalizing the schedule yet, though. We do know that it's looking to be the middle to the end of October, so we feel we still have a couple weeks before we really need to get the ground running on that.
You heard right.
Anyone else?
I guess, one thing that I had a question on is that there was a comment, and Dan, one of your emails to Joanne was about involving the student body
Yeah.
in the survey,
Yes.
and you thought there might be some pushback from the administration on that. What were you thinking?
Well, I just want to make sure that the students, all the students are given a chance to participate if they want to. That, you know, that they're not held up by classes, or they're given an opportunity to get into a listening session if they can. So,
I guess, Joanne, do you see any problem with that?
I think what we're trying to do is put together some, I don't see a problem with it at all, so to answer your question, no, I don't see a problem. I think particularly at the middle and high school, we'll do a combination of both invited, just an open session for people, students to come, as well as some where we actually do a cross-section, so for example, alphabetically every 15 letters, so that we're getting a cross-section of students to interview. Because quite frankly, and I don't mean it in any rudeness, sometimes when we do open session with students, either they don't feel they understand what the questions are, and we want to make sure that we not only offer every student an opportunity, but that we also guarantee that we have a voice from students. But to that end, we don't want it to be all National Honor Society students or students from a certain demographic. So we'll make sure that we get a cross-section of students by both doing some invitation as well as some scheduled. And I'm really proud of what you're doing, because we're going to be also interviewing all upper elementary students in all of the elementary schools. And that's a real commitment to listening to even more voices. As I've said, sometimes I've done these where there's a few token student voices on a steering committee and that's about it. I'm really applauding the commitment that you have to hear student voice. And it will be important.
I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't, where they had to choose between their lunch and going to a listening.
Yeah.
Yes. I was hoping you didn't think the administration was against, you were thinking the
It'd be
administration.
great.
No, I just wanted to make sure that the administration was going to allow kids to have an opportunity to maybe interrupt some class times for this tremendous opportunity for us.
One thing I will warn you, Joanne, my son Brian is in 7th grade.
All right.
If you give him, he'll tell you exactly.
Okay. Well, great.
Hang on.
I've already talked to a few kids that just were, oh wow, I really want, this is exciting.
It'd be great to have their voice. So thank you for this commitment and this opportunity.
Dan, the only other thing I wanted to add is going back to our multifaceted approach. I think it's very important that not only do we have the focus groups for the survey, and there may be some people that attend a focus group meeting, but they might not feel real comfortable sharing their voice at the time, or they may leave the meeting and reflect and think they have something else to add, or whatever it may be. And it's really good, I think, that we have a multifaceted approach with both listening sessions and the digital tool.
Right. Any other comments, questions? Okay, moving on. The review of the extracurricular staff contract requests.
Busy time of year, Sam's been busy, along with Mr. Hunt and Mr. Anderson, and a lot of work's been done.
So, do we need a motion to, no? Any discussion? Nope. Okay. All right. Last item on the agenda. Items related to board committees, reports, next meeting dates. Any questions? There's the WASD thing coming up over at Florian Gardens. Everyone had an opportunity to look at that site.
And that was under board superintendent communications as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else for the good of the group?
Annual meeting at 6.
Annual meeting at 6.
Right over here.
All right.
Right next to motion.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Jim made it. Jim beat you. And you're going to second that, right? Okay. All in favor? All right, we are adjourned.